All right, let's get it.
Shalom, shalom, family. As always, it's a great honor and a pleasure to be able to be in a realm of consciousness where that we see what is taking place globally, not just externally, but internally. And as a result of our internal awareness of what's taking place, it allows us to see the truth of the matter and to decode things that has been coded. Yesterday, we talked about how this language was so vital in terms of we trying to utilize it and clarify things. But what we found that in this dualistic language that has been established that everybody is trapped in, it makes it almost impossible to really get to the core of what's been said. And I sent out a video to most of us online, and it was a sister dealing with what she called the Western Shemitic Hebraic language. It was you need to go back and watch it because today we're going to kind of link back into that and make it become a little bit more applicable to reality. And we also mentioned a couple of days ago about this name Yahweh and how the feminine element in the English is first, and in the Hebrew is the masculine. And these are some mysteries that we are capable of unfolding and understanding that in previous time we have had no inkling or no thought at all, to look into these things. We were just open sepulchres to accepting whatever was told to us because of the conditioning that we had been under for this cycle of time that we've been in this assimilated reality. So I want to go and kind of put what the sister said in perspective about this language. And most of us know that in the Hebrew today, in the contemporary language, if you say something about work, you would say avodah. You're using the veit, avodah. Now we know that in the Hebrew they got the olive bait, and then they got what they call the veit. It was a bait, and that's what we laid out on the name. I mean, the conspiracy of the English language being a veil, and everybody got those notes. All you do is look through. You got all the notes that we did on the how the vowels was used. A-E-I-O-U, how they constructed the term holy. All that's in your possession now. And further building upon this, we are able to see, that it's something that we're going to have to look at a little bit closer as we scientifically and energetically, delve back into the truth that has been concealed and hid, and of course we are now clear that we are responsible for this brilliant, you understand, manifestation of what we are going through. Sometimes that may be a little difficult for us to digest and ask the question, well, why did we do this? Well, there's answers to why we did it. And what I want to do, I want to pick up in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, verse 1 and 2. And what we're going to do here, we're going to look at something that, we possibly didn't consider. Many of you online may have thought of it, but we didn't bring it out. So, but things are moving in the unfolded realm where all calls take place. And it's in the, the enfolded room where all things take place, and the unfolded The unfold is where you see the effects at. So all these things are taking place in the unfold that we don't recognize. This is where the cause is taking place at. And you begin to look at the unfold idea within yourself, etc., you'll better understand what we are seeing externally, you understand, unfold. An example of that, Markiel had brought up about the Black Panther. And just so happened, one of the brothers here in the land, I guess he has a friend or something that he was talking to on the other side, he decided he was going to take 2, 3 of the children to see the movie. So it ended up, now 3 busloads, you hear me? 3 busloads has been put together to go to see this movie, you know, on Kamishi, which is the 5th day. And we done bought the whole theater in terms of us watching it. Now, really don't know, nobody really know nothing about it like that, but there's something energetically, you understand, that is happening inwardly in the infold element of the process that always occurs where the manifestation takes place internally. We are able to, with our sense organ, verify in the unfold where we see the manifestation of it. So
yes, sir.
That as an example, given that as an example to help us to understand where we are, what's really happening. We got to really pay close attention. So we're going to go back now to the 4th chapter because this is the same thing that's happening. We've covered, you know, the Genesis and the twins and all that. But we want to go back because it's unfolding, it's steady unfolding. So we go to the 4th chapter of Genesis and the story of Cain and Abel. And we're going to just read verse 1 and 2. And it reads, first verse, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. So here we find a term they use, he knew. Well, we know that ain't no like no, but when we now begin to look at it from a more energetic and as opposed to a external physical, we are now connecting up. This Genesis really is all about genetics. The whole idea of Genesis is about genetics. Was no mistake in them titling in the book Genesis, because genes is, Genesis is a compound word meaning genes is. So when we look at this 2nd verse, we see something very interesting. Doesn't jump out at you, but it's there. Verse 2. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now, you got to listen very carefully here. This word again, it don't mean what we think it means. Now, the word again, let's look at it, the Hebrew. The word again, the number is 3254.
Got it, Nasik.
Yasaf.
Uh-huh.
Now, Yasaf means to add or augment. Often in the adverb form mean to continue. Then it says to do a thing, to conceive again. Now, then we see where it says to continue, to exceed, or even further. So now we have to consider and think here. When we look here, we're really talking about the foundation of the concept of twins is right here, as opposed to we pick it up in Jacob and Esau. This is the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Right here. This is the beginning right here. And here we find something very significant here in this second verse. Another point where it says Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now, all your life, you've been taught all about the word ahavad, or to work for, labor for, toil for, right?
Cain.
That's why we've been taught that, you know, but here is Cain now, is a what? Tiller of the ground. He's a worker, he's a servant. He's a servant, but when we go on to continue on,
Okay.
so as we continue on with this, we look at so as we look at this word, here we find Cain was a tiller of the ground, a servant. And when we continue to look at this, you know, and we magnify it, we find a very, very significant point when we go back and tie Cain and Abel into Esau and Jacob.
Cain.
Now, mind you now, Cain is supposed to have what? Killed his brother Abel, right?
Right.
And then Seth was the replacement for the continuous process. So now when we move ahead as a tiller of the ground, now that's a worker, that's a servant. And the word in Hebrew is avad, for service or work. So when you consider avodah, you're using the V sound. And this is what the sisters were saying, that there's no V, you know, in our language. So it would be abba, abada, instead of avad, abada.
Correct.
And when you look at the word, that's exactly how it's framed in the Hebrew language. The root of the word, as we look at it here, it says, let me get it, abad. It don't say avad, it says abad. Then it says abad, to work, by implying to serve or to till. Well, we know in the process of time, when Cain presented his offering, we noticed something, that his offering was rejected.
Cain.
His offering was rejected, and he was told as to why his offering was rejected. And at verse 5, I'm going to pick it up since we're here. He says, verse 4, and Abel he also brought of the firstling of his flock, and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, firstling of the flock. Then verse 5 said, but Cain, and to his offering he had no respect. Cain was very wroth or angry, and his countenance fell. But he was a worker, and it was about serving, right? And so it was about working and serving. The question is, today, as we fast forward, how is service or work and worship going to what? Change things on our behalf. If you fast forward today. Because that's what we was taught, that you got to work for, labor for, toil for the Creator. Well, we got to go back and put this in perspective now. Now we're going to go over to the 25th chapter, 27th chapter of Genesis. And we're going to find something. We're going to pick up in the 37th verse of Genesis, the 27th chapter, verse 37. And we know that in chapter 25 is where the twins were born, two different manner of people,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
And we get to the 27th chapter, we read the 37th verse, and it reads, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thou Lord, meaning Jacob, and all of his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven. Now let's go back. Yesterday when we talked about Isaiah, the 8th chapter, we're talking about dwelling in Mount Zion.
That's
But now we got to understand there has to be a connection to the dwelling place being the fatness of the earth. Now we're going to have to look into this very, very significantly here, because this is going to bring out some very significant things for us. And of the dew of heaven from above. This was the blessing to Esau, the recessive. Verse 40. By thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brothers. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion shift now, thou shalt break the yoke from his neck. So now, stop for a moment here. The sword. And what we've been doing, using this language again, we've been trying to explain these things, still talking in dualistic language. And for instance, I always like to use, every time I hear somebody talk about the spirit this and the spirit that, we think that we really talking in a language that's going to give somebody some power. But when you say spirit, what you're really doing, you're dividing and separating it from the whole of everything.
correct.
And so we gotta find a way to begin to express what we're talking about from a holistic language in order to activate the real power that we're talking about that's gonna cause the thing to unfold into the substance that we are talking about. Because whether we know it or not, we slip up when we use dualistic language.
Excellent.
And we neutralize the power that we really are trying to bring forward. So now we look at this again. He said that he would live by the sword. Now we got to look at that from a holistic point of view. We got to look at that, the sword that comes forth out of your mouth, but also the sword that you have in your hand, whatever kind of weapon it is.
That's correct.
But they have to come together, thought being substance. There ain't no one without the other.
That's
impossible. So when we look at this and we continue on into verse 41, here we come to find the point I want to bring out. And Esau hated Jacob. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Well, this word mourning gonna really take us someplace. The word mourning here, the word they give you for mourning is the word 60, the number 60, but the root is 56. And the word is abal. Okay, it means to bewail, it means to lament, but this is where the book of Lamentation comes from. The book that follows Jeremiah is the book of Lamentation. And we're going to go there just for a moment to show you something quite interesting. Each one of the, it's 5 chapters in Lamentation, and each one of them has 22 letters.
Wow, Nasik.
Each 22 verses, okay? Now listen, the first verse says, how does the city sit solitary? And the word in Hebrew is ek. The word ek is like how. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2, it says the same thing. Ek, how has the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in anger?
Wow.
Now, chapter 3, it don't say ek. It says, I am the man that has seen affliction by the rod of the wrath. That's chapter 3. Chapter 4 goes back and it says that. How? Chapter 5, the first verse says, remember, O Lord, what is come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. So out of the 5 chapters, 3 of them is that. How did it happen? And then the one of them says, and I'm the man that's seen the affliction. And then the final chapter is asking for remembrance. So this is the book of Lamentations. Now you never hear nobody use this book, Lamentation.
Nasik, I got this. This is huge. This
So
paradigm shifting. If we understand what it is we just witnessed here, this is huge.
well, again, and I just want to close it out each time, then you can take it. Again, we back to what we said in the beginning about genetics, and this is something that we really now have to talk about, because it ain't about what we was taught about spirituality like that, separate from genetics. You know, it can't be one as opposed to the other. It has to be a union of energetic and, you know, the physical element working in harmony with the energy or with the thought or with the idea. You cannot separate your brains, you know, from, you know, calling it a mind and then separating your sense elements in some kind of way. You can't do that. That is totally inaccurate. And as long as we do that, we're going to find ourselves completely confused and baffled about what's taking place. So I want to, I'm gonna hold up there, because when I go back to how diseases, you know, this is the final point. It came up today about sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia goes back to this genetics again. And we've been made to believe that there's no cure for these things. But again, we got to understand that there is no cure as long as duality exists. There is no cure. The only cure to everything is what? A holistic approach to everything. That's the only cure. And if we get the correct understanding and what be able to come into this unity and oneness of wholeness, we will see that the diseases that, you understand, is running rampant within the community will begin to halt. It will begin to halt. But all this is tied to diet, exercise, and thought process. And you can't separate one from the other. You cannot separate one from the other. So I'm going to hold at this point, and I'll go back in tomorrow at another time, and we want to let Eitai go ahead on and take it on from here. Eitai.
So this portion again that is dovetailing off the theme that Nasik put forth regarding this holistic language. It focuses on this word holy. All right. And I titled it The Etymology of Holy and the Revelation of the Cursed, Accursed, sacred feminine. Now, see, we just got through talking about that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
denigration, the
Right.
denigration
Right.
of the divine feminine or the sacred feminine. So we're going to continue on with that, but I'm going to back up here a little bit to tie everyone in, and especially the people that have recently joined us, and we're going to establish just a few fundamentals so that we all have a firm track to run on and no one is left behind. One of the things that we've established, one of the truths that we've established is this aspect that melanated people are not, and I repeat, are not created beings. That we are cosmic beings, that we are astral beings, that everything in us, from a material sense as well as a immaterial or energetic sense, is star stuff, is the stuff that stars are made of. We've all heard the phrase, and we've heard it sung to us, that everyone is a star, that you're a shining star, no matter who you are. All of these are cosmic truths that we have been programmed to ignore and to become unaware of. But this is the truth, and we're going to set the again a framework for that.
Star
Briefly,
Child.
huh?
Star Child.
Yeah, Star Child, that whole thing. So we pointed out to you yesterday that the modern Hebrew language uh, is based on an original astral language that correspond to stars and star constellations. All right. And indeed, there's evidence for this in the scriptures in Isaiah 8, where it is stated, "Behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth in Mount Zion." So again, it is, these this ability or characteristic to be for signs and wonders, we know were attributed to the constellations, to the sun, to the moon, uh, in earlier, in the Genesis narrative. All right. So again, it is giving us further evidence of our astral or cosmic beginnings. And indeed, when we look at the Hebrew word stars, it is the word kokav. And when we take a phonetic and as well as a etymologic uh, look at this word, we know that the root is kava, which connects us to Eve, kava, and Nasik just laid out this this brilliant explication of Eve and connected that with the overall tone of genetics and DNA and melanin that we have been establishing these many weeks. So if you don't have an understanding of genetics and you don't have on the temple, on the ancient temples, they put know thyself and what? You will know God or you will know the divine. So we're going to strengthen that adage, in this class and then in subsequent classes, because we must understand the importance of that. To what? To determine the true nature of this reality that we inhabit, number one, and then the true nature of ourselves. So this aspect of us emanating from a higher cosmic or astral existence prior to our birth into the physical realms. We're going to take a look at one scripture. Someone had a question. Okay. We're going to take a look at John, the 8th chapter, verses 41 to 42. And it's going to tell us basically everything that we know or that we should know about emanation. This is Yeshua speaking, and he's making a distinction between what the people know as a father and what he has been trying to tell them about what he refers to as the Father. He says, "Ye do the deeds of your father." Then said they to him, "We be not born of fornication. We have one Father, even God." Jesus said unto them, "If God were your Father, that is, if you were united, one with the divine, or with your divine higher self, he said, ye would love me. For I proceeded forth," that word is exercomahi, exercomahi. "I proceeded forth and came from God," emanated into existence from a astral or cosmic beginning. "Neither came I," speaking of his humanity or the material aspect, "of myself, but my higher self sent me." We must understand this because this not only applies to this caricature, this allegorical caricature that we call Jesus or Jesus Christ, it applies to all melanated beings, all melanated people. So this word "proceeded forth" is going to lead us to what we call emanate or emanation. Again, it's the Greek word exerkomahi. It means to go or to come forth, with mention of the place out of which one goes. So we're talking about the place out of which we emanated were the cosmic or enfolded non-material realms of eternity. We do not have a beginning. We do not have an ending. We are astral or cosmic beings who emanated into the physical realms. This is going to be very important that we see this and that we truly conceptualize this, because this has not been what our belief systems have told us. And it was for a reason, as we're going to see. Like Nasik said, it might be difficult for us to wrap our minds around it at first, but as you keep hearing it, you're going to understand that it fits perfectly into everything that you've known up to this point. It is also speaking of those who leave a place of their own accord, voluntarily, of their own free will, to come forth what? Physically. So whether we know it or not, whether we can see it or not, this is our origin. And our ancient ancestors have given us a basic map, Nasik, using the divine name Yud-He Vav-He, which is actually not a name. It is a framework for a process and a framework for understanding a basic process. When you look at the extreme left, it is the first step in the process, which is the world of emanation. And again, this is what we're talking about. And this basic four-step process is how we moved from a cosmic or astral existence in eternity and moved into what? The physical realm and the physical body, which is temporary. It is a temporary temple. It is a sukkah. It is a sukkah. It is a sukkah, a temporary dwelling place. Sukkah in Hebrew. It is through the process of emanation that who and what we know as God, our divinity or higher self, came to manifest in the physical or material world. This is very important because the caricature Yeshua was trying to explain to the general populace that he emanated. Not everyone here, Nasik, emanated. The Caucasian or the aberrant man was created in whatever form we find him. He was created by our forefathers and mothers for a specific purpose. And see, the quicker we understand this, the easier it will be to determine the true nature of what? Our existence and the true nature of this reality. To emanate means to flow out from, to flow out, to proceed forth from. And again, this is what this word exarchomahi means in the words, in the Greek, in the words attributed to the allegorical caricature Jesus Christ. For I proceeded forth and came from God. In other words, I emanated into existence. I existed as an eternal, astral, light, cosmic being and chose of my own free will and volition to emanate into existence. And again, this is the template for all melanated beings. Now, Nasik, some of us,
Uh-huh.
some of us have not come to the point where we remember this beyond a shadow of a doubt. But as we increase
Right.
our vibratory frequency, we're going to get to a point where learning stops and remembrance begins. And you're not going to need any confirmation to who you are and why you are here. Right now, most of us don't know that. Most of us
That's
don't know that.
absolutely correct.
But we're in the process of knowing that. And once you start to remember, you will not only know yourself, you will know me. You will know Nasik, you will know everyone that what has emanated in here at this particular time for a purpose. And we will know beyond a shadow of a doubt, Nasik, what that purpose is. It
Yeah.
definitely, it definitely is not to till, work, serve, toil, labor, what? As servants and slaves. Definitely not that.
Yeah.
So we're going to entitle this next session, and my wife gave this to me as we were talking about this. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like what?
A diamond.
Like a diamond in the sky. So we're going to start to do now science. Now, Nasik, language,
Uh-huh.
as you've told us many times, you reminded us many times, language is composed of what? Not just letters and words, but numbers, right?
Right. Right.
Symbols.
Triangle.
Shape,
Yeah. Right.
geometric shapes, etc. So
Right.
sounds,
Right.
colors, right? All of this language is expressed in all those terms. What we're going to concentrate on right now for the study of this purpose is these geometric shapes, and basically one in particular, which is the delta or the triangle. And we have to know that that is important, Amaria, because as you reminded us, George Clinton said, what? Star Child here, citizens of the universe. Citizens of the universe or the cosmos. We have come back to what? Reclaim the pyramids. It's a mystery, but it has that shape of what? A delta or a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody with me? All right.
Hey.
So the star in that little nursery rhyme, the little star is compared to what? A diamond, which is two deltas or two triangles joined at their base. Family,
Wow.
this is an energetic formula. This is a super energetic formula.
Eitai.
Okay,
That's the baseball field.
that you absolutely correct. You absolutely.
Now,
It's called a
now
diamond.
I just go to show you something.
That's correct.
Wow.
Baseball diamond.
That's right.
Baseball diamond.
Now I want you all to keep this in mind. Write down diamond and then write the word basis down. BASIS and then BASES. We're going to go somewhere with this now, see? See, I know the ancestors and our higher consciousness is involved with this because y'all just snatching this from the heavens and bringing it down to earth so quickly that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are in a higher vibrational frequency. So when we take a look at other ways that these deltas are combined to make stars, right? Twinkle, twinkle, little star like a diamond, right? We look at what's called Nasik, the Magen David, or the Star of
Yeah.
David,
Right.
and it represents the interaction or the union of two deltas or two triangles. You have one in the base in the upward position, which represents the feminine element, and then you have the one with the base or the point pointed upward, which represents the male. And this, Nasik, is what these secret societies call the secret doctrine, which is just this: the dynamic interaction or what? Union of two opposites. It's just talking about solving duality. All right?
Yeah.
To what? Achieve the miracle of the one thing. So they chose this to represent, but also, Nasi, these things are representative of, as we'll see, Yud He Vav He, and the four elements or four processes of emanation. So again, we have fire, earth, air, water. And these things combined give us a fifth element called ether. Are you all seeing this?
Yeah.
So ether represents a new, listen, ether represents a new, exponentially higher and more refined offspring, expression, outcome, etc., which results from the dynamic interaction or union of apparent opposites or polarities. Now see, as it relates to this law, because you had mentioned what? Cain and Abel, which are the offspring, correct?
Yeah.
From two parents. Jacob and Esau, which are the offspring, correct? We understand that
Correct.
they represent the dominant and recessive.
Right.
So
I'm better though.
what this symbol is referring to, Nasi, is the dynamic interaction of opposites to what? Get us to a new, exponentially more refined, right? And higher offspring or expression or outcome or effect. Does everybody see the science?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we all see the science?
Correcting of the flaw.
Correct. So we had to what? Create the aberrant man to be what? In opposition.
Yeah.
In order that the interplay, the dynamic interplay between two apparent opposites would do what? Create this ether or this new, exponentially higher and more refined offspring. In other words, the elimination of the incidences and manifestation of the recessive trait. Is everyone with me?
Mm-hmm.
The triangle delta symbol is a simple one, but is one with a great amount of meaning behind it, due to the fact, listen, that triangles contain three corners, three sides. They are often linked to different trinities. Because they have three corners or three angles, three sides, they are often linked to different trinities. Now, I said the word angle, and we're going to understand as we go into a higher understanding of this, that angles in geometric science and physics correspond to angels in the Bible. Are y'all with me?
Yeah.
The most common being that of the Christian faith, the Holy Trinity. Now, this is the Nasik, this holy, this is the profane Trinity.
Absolutely.
All right. It was designed so we could not get any results. We couldn't produce any results because what? It was masculine biased. The Father, Son, and what? The Holy Ghost. Something spooky. Can't nobody tell you nothing about that. They can't explain it. It is genderless. So you're not actually, Amaria, working with three angles or what? Or three sides. You're missing
That's
one.
clear.
You're missing one. A ghost. They made it spooky.
Yeah.
The triangle can also symbolize the stages of moon waxing and waning. This is very important. The moon waxing, waning, and full, right? Other trinities include mind, body, and spirit, mother, father, and child. This is the true Trinity here. These are formulas. These are formulas that don't have anything to do with any social or religious or cultural or belief system or doctrine. These are simply formulas. And they can be utilized, all of them can be utilized for good or ill, depending on what? Intent. Intent. Past, present, and future. Another powerful one is mother, maiden, and crone. Thought, feeling, and emotion. And look, Nasik, creation, that means generation, G, preservation, operation, and destruction, God.
Uh-huh.
That is that is a formula. That is a formula. So here we are. Now, that was the intro, and we're going to get into what Nasik brought out when he brought forth the etymology of the word holy. And this was very, very important. And we should not overlook this, that this is a tremendously important concept as we evolve into higher and higher realms of consciousness. All right. This was evolutionary. And Amari was one of these cheat codes that once we conceptualize this, that allows us to do what? Skip some levels and get into the higher realms of vibratory frequency. So, again, it's titled The Etymology of Holy and the Revelation of the Cursed, Accursed Sacred Feminine. And the subtitle is The Curse of the Nine of Diamonds. The Curse of the Nine of Diamonds. So, I'll go very quickly because Nasik covered this, and you can go back and either look at the notes or look at the video that we provided of yesterday's class that we did. And he went all through the definition, the etymology of sacred first, and he got to the word holy here and accursed. Then you go on to look at the word holy, and you get to this, Nasik, to fine or to punish. This is sacred
Right,
now,
right.
to fine or to punish. Now, if we've been paying attention, we understand that again, they are aiming this toward what? This has been aimed toward the sacred feminine or the divine feminine, right? Because this is what happened. They were accursed, and we're going to show you evidence of this. So the word accursed means being put under a curse, right? Or to pronounce a curse upon, to excommunicate. A curse is a prayer that evil or harm befall someone. And it goes on to say, Nasi, that this was the development of a phrase called the curse. Now, listen, sisters, and it had to do with menstruation.
Right.
They call that the curse.
Yep.
And this came into being, Nasik, in 1930. Now,
1930.
historically, we did the etymology, right? Talked about the New York Stock Exchange. They crashed it when? In 1929.
Right.
And the New York Stock Exchange, Nasik, had to do with this term avad during that time period. Because I think it was in 1865, it moved to its permanent location in Manhattan, in New York. And
Wow.
we had moved what? Our forefathers and foremothers moved from at the end of slavery, when it was that time, what? Moved from the agrarian society to what? Industrial society, got paid wages for the first time, and the New York Stock Exchange fueled that.
Wow.
So here we see in 1930, they started connecting uh, the curse and being accursed with menstruation. And then it gives us the curse of Scotland, the nine of diamonds in cards. That really got my attention. And
So, Eitai,
yes,
this ties into um how all those what we would call sisters who was like urbanists, like there for all them to be massacred, huh?
absolutely. They were
Wow.
doulas and midwives.
Right, right.
So when a young maiden started to mature and started to have her period, it was the midwife or maybe her mother was taught by a midwife to do what? Let her understand what was happening with her body.
Wow.
So, but all this affected our understanding of genetics, our own bodies, And to tell someone that they are cursed, I mean, this has a tremendous impact on the mentality. But again,
Absolutely.
this was all part of the plan. And this curse of the nine of diamonds is attested from 1791. And then they say the origin is obscure. And every time they say the origin is, they make a statement and say the origin is obscure, I know they hiding something. So I'm going right there. And we're going to understand that they ain't doing nothing but talking about the sisterhood being cursed. So I went
Wow.
in to look at this curse of Scotland and the curse of the nine of diamonds. And you're going to see that this ties directly into the things that we've been bringing to your attention. So the nine of diamonds was talked about in terms of this book that was printed in 1708 called the British Apollo. Now, there's that word again, Nasik, AP or AB or OP or OB. When you see that,
Yeah.
we're going to make this connection. We done made the connection already. They think they can hide stuff in language. Now, see, not no more. Family, not
Yeah.
no more.
Right.
Understand our signs and symbols now. So when we see them, we know exactly what you are talking about. If you teach a slave all about your language, what? Willie Lynch letter. He will
You
know
know
your
all
secrets and he will no longer become what? Look, a slave, a tiller, a worker, a toiler. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in this book, the excerpt from the book is in the middle. But the question is asked, why is the nine of diamonds called the curse of Scotland? And again, we go back to this diamond in the sky being a star, us emanating from the stars. See, now, see, if you don't know who you really are and the true nature of reality, you ain't never going to make the connection. And all this
Never
stuff
can
is
make
going
it.
to go over your head, and you're just going to keep repeating the same cycle over and over again. And I mean, we're not going to get nowhere. So it says the question was asked, why is the nine of diamonds called the curse of Scotland? The answer, diamonds as the ornamental jewels of a regal crown. Now, we said we was going to talk about this crown again when we looked at the passage from Joseph. We probably won't get to it today. But now see, this thing unfolds into so much detail about us. See, I'm glad and so appreciative of the brilliance of our ancestors. The way
Yeah, you have to.
that the way that they hid this stuff and even hid it from the persons that they gave it over to for custodians to keep it for us until we would what take possession again of it. So
Wake
it's
up.
talking about the ornamental jewels of the regal crown. And then they say, imply no more in the above named proverb than the mark of royalty. And I said, you a lie. I'm going to imply more of it. See, they're trying to keep this thing here. Don't go no further than this. But when they tell me that, I don't care if it's in the Bible. I'm going to go into it. And when you go into it, not see when you pass them, don't pass go, don't come in here. When you pass all of that, you get to your real stuff.
Yeah, right, right.
Because again, they've made it accursed. They've made it cursed, and not them, but we did. We made it blasphemy. we made it taboo. Why? Because in our unconscious position, it would keep
There
us
you
from
go.
that in order for what? This process, this healing, this corrective process to run its course. This cooking, Amaria, like in an oven, this putrefaction had to reach its final stage in order for what? In order to get back to the primal matter and allow us to do what, Nasik? Get back to the original source.
Yeah,
Isn't that what it's doing? Removing
that's what
all
it's
of what?
right.
The impurities. So when you look at the Scottish emblems of royalty, you see our stuff, don't you? There they go, Nasik. The sword, the rod, and the crown. This is a coin from Scotland that has all of our symbols there.
Right.
And this is what they use to rule. But now see, they don't have no power. They just have force. Like you pointed out, they really rule by the sword.
They
Ain't
really ruled by the sword.
ain't no physical, ain't no spiritual or energetic power being manifested. It's just all physical.
Yeah.
So Esau was told what? You're gonna live, but the recessive trait was you're gonna live by your sword.
That's what he said.
You're gonna have to come in, trick people by deceit, then when they're not looking, hit them in the head with a sword. Or not see like they did at the real Thanksgiving dinner, poison our elders and forefathers
Yeah, right,
with the meal that they prepared.
right.
So you have to use subterfuge and deceit and genocide and forced coercion and slavery and politics, and all this kind of stuff. They have no power, but they take these, which are our emblems, and this is where it comes from. I want y'all to pay close attention. If you look at the way that they have the swords crossed, Nasi, you see where the 1602 is at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
It forms the base of the delta or the triangle,
Yeah, I see.
pointing up,
Yeah.
pointing up.
Uh-huh.
Right now,
Right.
look at the one on top.
Right.
The crown is forming the base of an inverted um, delta or triangle pointing downward, and they are meeting at the tips or the point. They're not even
Right.
combined. They're not even combined. They're not interacting. So they're telling you by virtue of that they are what? Neutralizing the feminine and what? Promoting the masculine. And those are actually two masculine, one inverted masculine, and this is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is profane.
Yes, it is.
Now, but watch our ancient ancestors. Look at the way that Horus or Heru, this is our hero. This is where we get the word hero from. Look at the way he's holding the emblems, Amaria. His shoulder line is forming the base of the inverted delta or the feminine energy. Again, this is what we've been emphasizing. The brothers know that they have to access that divine feminine or sacred feminine to rule. And we just didn't allow people to rule. When you go back and look at how this thing, individuals, some of the tests of rulership in our ancient ancestors, you had to be able to move a huge rock or a stone just using your thoughts. You had to be able to demonstrate power, not take it by might. And this is what we're talking about. So when you see again the sisters represented, they have both of the emblems of power. And again, the male, just the two are represented, but the feminine energy must activate it. And Heru is demonstrating here that the feminine energy, the adverse delta, gives him the power to rule. Makes sense?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about this nine of diamonds now. All right. The curse of Scotland, the curse of the nine of diamonds. And we're going to connect this directly to the sisters. Everybody all right?
Hey.
All right. So the ninth letter in the Hebrew alphabet is the letter Tet. The letter Tet is the ninth letter again in the Hebrew alphabet and also appears in various forms in a number of other Semitic languages, Shemitic languages. There's that word again. As its name indicates, Tet has the sound of a T. Some believe that the meaning of the letter is related to a Phoenician letter by the same name, whose meaning was wheel or circle. Very important. And again, Nasik, this is going to tie into the tail becoming what? The head.
Right.
As we see illustrated by the uh, Ouroboros, the head coming to meet the tail. For those on a spiritual path who chose to follow their own dream, not the dream of others, the tarot cards are a powerful tool. They show 13 steps of wisdom applied with the 52 basic components. Okay, this is what ties it into the nine of diamonds now, Nasi. And we know that there are royal suits in the 52 card deck, right?
Yeah, right,
King,
right.
queens, jacks, and so forth, right? Each of the 13 steps is fourfold, starting in a sequence. Listen, diamonds equals matter. I'm going to stop right there. Diamonds equals matter. So when we go back, it says that it's 13 cards. Put it into, there are four sets of cards, 13 individuals.
13 suits, four sets, right.
Correct. So everything fits within this framework. So we know that diamonds represent the material world, which corresponds with Asaya, right? Is everybody with me?
With the word Asaya,
With the word Asaya, the fourth uh, the fourth step in the process of emanation.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Is
got you.
everybody
Okay,
with me?
okay.
So look with me, you all. We're going to figure out where the 9 comes into. Yet Zerah, the step before Asaya, says it has to do with pregnancy. So the 9 of diamonds corresponds to the 9 months of pregnancy and what? The final step of emanation, which is birth into the area of diamonds or the material physical world. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Now see, they can't hide nothing from us. We didn't we got back our science. We got
Yeah.
back our science. And we just not showing how intellectually smart we are. We are going to instruct people how to use this science to do what? Rule. This is what this is. This is how they've been ruling, but they ain't demonstrated no power. We understand that we have the power innate in us. So this
Yeah.
transition, now see, this transition is going to be what they call a bloodless coup.
Right. Right.
So
Wow.
we see how the deltas are supposed to be integrated, base to base, how they are supposed to interact, and to give us power, to cause us to what? Shine. Now see, that is the word Shem or shame, which when we say Hashem, it is referring to what? That Shemin oil. That is what? Now see, curative. That
Right.
is an
Right.
ointment that causes us to be what? Less rigid, less
Right.
fixed in a position, more flexible, more whole, more healthy, more holistic in our approach. This is what this language does if we know how to operate it. So, the everyday cards thus provide an archetypical guide, listen, for all those on a spiritual path. As soon as you know how to use them, I'm going to say that again. It provides everyone an archetypical guide as soon as you know how to use them. And this is what we're familiarizing with you again, or refamiliarizing you with. The first step in this knowledge is to comprehend the sequence of the cards. We're going to show you the cards in order, which follows mirrors the path. The cards in order, which follows mirrors the path. They show the natural progression of the way of wisdom. They show the natural progression of the way of wisdom or higher consciousness, higher vibrational frequency, closely associated, listen, with the divine feminine. The divine number 9, it not only has the inherent power to create, reproduce, procreate, etc., but also the innate ability to duplicate itself, Nasik, ad infinitum. It has the innate ability to duplicate itself
continuously.
into everlasting.
That's the continuous, right?
That's the continuance, brother. That's related to
Yeah.
your safe. And now see, the continuance should be this way on the ascension. When you look at that word yasaf, it doesn't just mean like what we're going to give the example of now. It doesn't just mean to duplicate like addition. It means to exponentially increase.
That's a difference there. It's a major difference, right?
And this is going to what we're going to come to understand the science behind one will chase 1,000
Right, right.
and two will put what 10,000 to flight.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
we have the ability once we activate this power to increase exponentially. Amara, you don't plant a seed and expect one a tree to grow one apple. You don't plant an apple seed and expect one apple on that tree. You expect it to be fruitful, right?
Very fruitful.
And for
Right.
that seed to do what? Multiply or increase
Multiply.
exponentially. And now see, out
Mhm.
of those apples, you don't expect just one seed out of the core of the apple, do you?
No, no.
You
I
expect
mean
what? Exponential
that
increase.
that is something you take. It's a couple of fruits. For instance, the avatia.
Uh-huh.
Now, the avatia, you take one seed, and you got so many seeds inside of that. But you see what the bandit done now? He got most of your avatikim or your watermelons now seedless.
Seedless.
Seedless, you see. So there's another fruit that we have here in the land. It's got so many seeds in it that you just won't be. It ain't no bigger than a baseball.
Uh-huh.
But man, you
Big
got
seed.
my seed. So again, a big old seed.
Right.
So exactly what you're talking about. Exponentially.
Exponential increase. So
Big
we
seed.
know that when you go, Nasik, from 1 to 9, and you add up all the numbers, you return right back to 9. You get 45, and then you reduce it back to what? Its primal source. This is alchemy.
Right,
This is the
right.
I'm giving you all the math behind the alchemical process. So what we did, Nasik, is we started from an enfolded reality. Y'all got to hear me. And let us, just for clarity's sake, say that that enfolded reality was 9. And in the unfolded physical planes, it unfolded as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But when you go through the process of adding it together, it returns back to its source. This is our spiritual journey through time. This is the math
I hear you.
behind the process, and it guarantees us what? That we will return back to our source. But you got to recognize it now.
Yeah.
You got to recognize it and what? Come into alignment with this process that was done for you. Makes sense.
That's excellent.
Moreover, multiplication by 9 always produces digits, that is, offspring, expressions, outcomes, effects, etc., that add up to 9. Like causes always produce like effects, and we know it. So this is why people can't understand Nasik if they don't know this science and they don't know that they are part of an alchemical process. They can't have any conception of how there is something that was developed that is recessive or lesser than them that got dominance over them.
Yeah, that's a mystery right there.
No way they can understand it. but we understand it. So multiplication by 9 always produces 9 digits. Offspring, expressions, outcomes, etc. that add up to 9. Again, like causes always produce like effects. Be not deceived, whatsoever a man soweth, what? That shall he also reap. That is, the number 9 possesses the divine power and ability to do what? Create in its image and after its likeness. Doesn't that sound like God?
Yeah.
And
So again, this prolific, creative, and reproductive ability illustrates, Nasik, all is one, or holistic aspect, the all-in-one, all is one rather, or holistic aspect or characteristic of the number 9. And here we go. 9 times 0 equals 0. I didn't change that. Zero, the cipher is always the starting point. The cipher is always the starting point. 9 times 1 equals 9. 9 times 2 gets you back to 9. 9 times 3 gets you wherever 9 is involved now, which represents what? Very closely associate and representative of the feminine aspect. It is always going to reproduce itself. So this is why, Nasi, it had to be accursed and sublimated. This was part of the
Right.
divine plan. Ain't nobody did nothing to us. This is our science.
Science that we didn't understand.
Now, if it's their science, ask me, why haven't they demonstrated the power to change their situation and get up off of us? Are y'all with me?
See, our signs are holistic, or wholeness and unity and oneness. Their signs is duality, which is plurality, which is individualism, which is all separate and disconnected. So that's their sign. And as a result, there's no way they can what? Manifest the power. They can always have to use force.
That's correct.
Always use force.
And yeah, they always have to use force. Force is an integral part for them.
So this is
Right.
why, now see, this is what you alluded to a little bit earlier. I didn't want to interrupt you, but this is what you alluded to with their use of the sword in a non-literal or figurative aspect. That they do what? Use that sword to
Yeah,
divide soul from the spirit. Isn't that what it says in
absolutely.
the Isn't that what it says
That's
in the New Testament?
right.
They use it to divide and not to unite. This was the problem with Scotland, trying to use our symbols and emblems. It always ended up in civil war, in a bloody civil war. Like causes always produce like effects. And we can see the same
Absolutely.
pattern here. So quickly, translated into the meaning, or I'm sorry, in addition to the number 9 symbolizes the ability, the beginning, Aleph, and completion, Tav, the creative cycle, circle, wheel. Thus, I am the Aleph, 0, and the Tav, 9, the first and the last. Thus, the head and the tail. It brings attainment, compassion, and vision for the future through the wisdom gleaned from the journey through the other numbers. Again, the number 9 is not an endpoint, but merely the closing of the circle, the closing of one beginning, cycle, wheel, etc., carrying us back to the beginning or another beginning of the next evolution. So, to begin to close this out within the last 5 or 10 minutes, you all translate it into the meaning of the Hermit tarot card. We have the axiom that there is nothing higher than self, and there is only the self to return to. Y'all got to hear this.
Absolutely.
Self is both the beginning and the ending. Additionally, one must realize there is nothing that lies outside of self. However, we all, to some degree, tend to look outside of self or externally for completion, wholeness, and power. This contradictory, self opposing, and innovating tendency becomes our sole and most fierce adversary, Satan, or opposer, in spiritual warfare. That being said, we of course realize that it was necessary for the divine or sacred feminine to voluntarily deprive herself of vital, divine, innate power, potency, and strength as she willingly emanated into the physical realm, the realm of Asaya or Nasik, diamonds, matter. This is why the diamond is accursed, to initiate
Right.
and perform the corrective healing procedure ritual or voluntary bending of the knee 400 years ago in real time. Innervate means to deprive of force or strength, actually power, not force or strength. It means to weaken or to impair. Thus,
To
in
debility.
Isaiah 51:21, and we visited this before, it talks about us in this condition, thou afflicted and drunken, that is weakened or impaired, but what? Not with wine. Not with wine.
Yeah.
So, quick point as we begin to close. Frances Cress Welsing helps us to understand the Cress theory of color confrontation in her groundbreaking book, The Isis Papers, The Keys to the Colors. She explains racism, white supremacy, and its roots. The root of racism is fear. Fear of white genetic annihilation. And if we read these scripture verses, I'm going to provide everyone with them. Nasik, starting in Genesis 3, especially verse 16, this indicates where the divine feminine was cursed. And it was
Right.
cursed.
Absolutely. Eitai.
She was cursed
Right.
in terms of genetic, reproductive, procreative ability. In Genesis 25, again, it talks about the children struggling together within her, dominant
Yeah.
and recessive traits, two nations, two manner of people. All right? One shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger.
Yeah.
And now I see you put into the framework where through Jacob's blessing that the yoke of Esau would what? Be removed.
Be removed.
And that would be where things would turn over and reverse. If we
And it
don't
was
know our science, there ain't no way we can understand it. But we
right.
understand this because we have the
Yeah.
proper framework.
Yeah.
And again, when you look at Exodus, and you're going to understand the roots of this controversy and how this war has been waged, because it said that one would be stronger genetically than the other.
Right.
And in the allegorical tale in Exodus, it talks about the children of Israel in another land, that they became what? Fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied, waxed exceedingly great, and filled the land. And then there
Right.
was a king, Nasik,
Said didn't know them, huh?
that didn't know, Nasik, that didn't know Yosef, that didn't know
Right.
Joseph, Yosef,
Right.
Yosef, did not know that this is what melanin and the dominant trait does.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then they went about, see, you can't stop this. They went about trying to stop it. First of all, putting them what? In bitter bondage. Now see, causing them to what? Avad,
Right, right.
work for, toil for,
Labor for,
labor
right,
for, like a slave. And then when that didn't work, he tried to get the midwives involved.
right, right.
They kill all the male children.
Hmm?
See,
You
now,
really got to understand this science in order to understand what has actually occurred. Other than that, the prophetic, whatever, whatever, you just hidden and missing. That's all.
you'll never come to an understanding. One of the
Right.
things that I
In other
want to
words, the
point
scripture
out,
say you're forever learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
and see, our elders have provided us with these instructions, but we, in general, we've we've ignored them. So I want us, I want to put everybody, uh, look, read Frances Cress Welsing. She has an understanding of this overall framework, the overall big picture as it relates to uh, genetics and as it relates to the politics and the social systems and the cultural systems and the civilizations as they what deal with this, especially in America. And her research was aided and based on Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. All right, and I'm going to read this. This was in the work that he did on the 4 stages of racism, and he makes um, this statement, and we all need to consider this. Racism is white supremacy, and white supremacy is racism. And this was in his work, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concepts by Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. And his basic premise, Nasi, is this. If you do not understand white supremacy as racism, how it works, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. and this is what is happening. But now
Right.
we're taking it, right? And we going into it and really expanding it beyond something that was political. And we're getting into the energetic nature of this and providing an overall framework for our people to understand not just racism and white supremacy, but the true nature of reality and our true identity and origins. So with that, I'm going to stop here